All right, let's jump right in. I want you to try and forget everything you think you know about cameras. Seriously, forget megapixels, forget frames per second, all of it. What if I told you there's a camera out there that doesn't actually take pictures? A camera that sees the world in a totally new way, one that's actually much, much closer to how our own eyes work. We are about to enter the incredible world of event cameras. Now, to really get why this is such a revolution, we first have to talk about the cameras we use every single day. And, the frustrations that come with them. We've all been there, right? Trying to capture that one perfect moment, only to find out our technology just couldn't keep up with reality. You know the scene. You're at a game, your kid scores the winning goal. You whip out your phone to snap the picture, and what do you get? A streak, a smudge. That amazing moment of action is just lost in this disappointing, blurry mess. That right there is a classic failure of conventional cameras called motion blur. Or hey, how about this one? You're trying to take a picture of a friend, but they're standing in front of a bright, sunny window. You're faced with a choice, right? You either expose for your friend and the entire window becomes a giant, washed-out white blob, or you expose for the window and your friend turns into a dark silhouette. The camera just can't handle that high contrast. So what's going on? Why is it such a struggle? Our own eyes can handle these situations no problem, but our fancy, expensive cameras just fall flat. Well, the answer lies in a design choice that's over 100 years old. The camera sees the world as a series of separate, complete pictures. We call them frames. But what if we could build a camera that just ditches the frame entirely? What if we had a camera that doesn't see pictures but instead sees, it sees change? That is precisely the new paradigm that event cameras bring to the table. An event camera. And pay attention to those other names, neuromorphic camera and silicon retina, because they're big clues, is a sensor where every single pixel acts like a tiny, independent detective. It's not waiting for some central command to snap a picture. Nope. Each pixel just watches its own little patch of the world and only speaks up when something actually happens. This really gets to the core of it. Your phone takes, 30 or 60 full pictures every single second. It captures everything, including the boring wall in the background that hasn't moved an inch. An event camera, it completely ignores that wall. Instead, it outputs this continuous, super fast stream of data, but only from the pixels that see a change in brightness. And here you can see exactly what that means. The top image, that's a traditional camera trying to keep up with a running cheetah. You see our old friend, motion blur, and a few jerky snapshots. Now, look at the bottom. That's the event camera's view. It's not a picture. It's this rich, flowing cloud of data points, precisely tracking the cheetah's movement through time. There's no blur, just pure, unadulterated information about motion. So, how on earth does it do that? It feels like magic, but the secret is in how each individual pixel is designed to almost think for itself. Let's zoom all the way in to the pixel level and see how this works. Okay, so let's break it down. Imagine you're a single pixel. First, you just look at the light hitting you and go, okay, this is my baseline. Then you just wait. The moment the light changes by a certain amount, say a ball flies into your view, bam, you fire off a tiny data packet. And that packet is incredibly specific. It says, I'm at coordinate XY. At this exact microsecond, the light got brighter. And then you go quiet again, just waiting for the next thing to happen. It's totally independent and unbelievably efficient. This whole new way of doing things, this bio-inspired design, gives these cameras some genuine superpowers. We're talking about the ability to capture visual information that is completely invisible to our normal sensors. So what's one of its biggest superpowers? Well, it's summed up by this number, 120 decibels. In photography, that's how you measure dynamic range, the ability to see details in the darkest darks and the brightest brights of a scene all at the same time. For context, a super high-end professional camera has less than half that. And here's what 120 decibels means in the real world. On the left, a standard camera is just completely blinded by those headlights. You can't even see the pedestrian. But look at the right. Because each pixel in the event camera works on its own, the bright lights don't blow out the whole scene. It sees the light and the person with perfect clarity. For something like an autonomous car, this is an absolute game changer. This chart really just puts everything into perspective. We just saw its dynamic range is, it's off the charts. Now look at equivalent frame rate. A super specialized ultra-high-speed camera might get to 12,500 frames per second. An event camera, it can detect changes at a rate that's equivalent to over 50,000 frames per second. It's not even in the same league.
So look, this isn't just some fascinating piece of tech for a lab. This is a fundamental shift that's getting ready to change how machines see and interact with the world around them. The potential uses are just vast. We've already talked about autonomous vehicles that need to react in a split second. But think about advanced robotics that need that precise, real-time feedback to handle delicate objects. And because they only send data when something changes, they use very little power, which makes them perfect for things like space imaging, long-term security monitoring, and all sorts of defense applications. And this quote gets to the very heart of that neuromorphic name. It really says it all. The way these cameras work, with independent pixels just firing off events whenever they see something, is a perfect match for a whole new type of brain-inspired computing. The sensor and the processor are basically speaking the same language, the language of spikes and events, just like the neurons in our own brain. So that leaves us with a truly fascinating question to think about. For over a century, we've forced our machines to see the world chopped up into these separate, wasteful, static frames. But what happens when our robots, our cars, and our computers can finally perceive reality the way living things do, as a continuous, dynamic flow of events? The possibilities are nothing short of revolutionary.